welcome to the Current Art Podcast. I'm Ya-Ching.
I'm Tong'en.
So I guess we are really pioneered in the art podcast industry because we are currently at a cemetery.
GREENWOOD Cemetery in Brooklyn.
It's your first time being here, right?
Yeah, it's really nice actually here. It's beautiful flowers, trees, and the architecture. Yeah, it's very pleasant here.
Yeah, and this cemetery has a really long history, actually. Yeah, it was even built before the Prospect Park and Central Park. So it was opened to the public in 1838. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it feels more like a park more than just cemetery. Yeah.
That's very true. I agree with that. Because there were a rural cemetery movement which took place in the early 1800s, and as a way of creating park-like cemeteries. So, I mean, the Prospect Park was inspired by this Greenwood Cemetery. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
How did you find here?
I was recommended by a friend because in this Greenwood Cemetery, you can actually do a sound walk.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have you tried?
Yeah, from a musician, Galizzy Bell.
Okay.
And she was doing a lot of like singings, and then she took you on a trip. Like you can learn a lot of like people who buried here, and it's very engaging.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and you can also listen to the sound of the birds, seeing different trees with histories.
Do you need a specific app for that?
I don't think so. I think you can just go on their website, like Greenwood Cemetery website, and then you can find out this sound walk. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out after our recording. It sounds great.
How are you doing this week?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah, just like I don't know. This week I feel very difficult to concentrate. Sometimes you have this up and down.
Right. Yeah. It's a moment when the spring's coming and everything is blooming.
Yeah.
And the birds are mating. So it's the season for the product.
You mean season for reproducing?
Yeah, reproducing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Everything is new.
Yeah, everything is new. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. That's natural.
Natural? Yeah, that's
Just
true.
Flow your mood.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like a mood swing in this week. And then that's actually quite according to our topic this week, which is about mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any struggle with mental health, like other than mood swing this week?
Mood swing.
Yeah. Do you have any concern?
Any concern? I have a lot of concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not very confident in talking about mental health because I feel like I've been going through some like relationship changes recently, so I've been trying to reflect on my past, and it's always bring up a lot of emotions, and it can definitely interfere your like daily schedules. You can feel like unconcentrated, lack of sleep. So I feel like it's very important moment to learn about yourself and learn about your struggles, and then
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when most times when you have weakness on your emotion, it's about losing yourself. That's what I found. Sometimes I think too much, like too deep about like surround me, not about me actually. Like somebody's gonna think about this way, and I'm gonna do this. Like kind of like not focusing myself. Instead, just my focusing is toward the outside, but you don't know where. So it's. So you have to find yourself
Yeah, because we are social animals, that we are surrounded by people, and sometimes you didn't put yourself at the first priority, but
Yeah, I'm not that kind of person, definitely.
yeah, but it's important actually to think about your needs and your values and your mood, and
Right.
yeah. And actually today we are going to introducing an artist.
Who's that?
Who's that? So it's quite related to the topic that we want to talk about. This artist is actually very brave to revealing her vulnerabilities to the public.
Yeah.
So it's a exhibition happened in Tate Gallery, Tate Modern in London.
British woman.
In British Woman. This work called My Bad by the British artist TRACEY EMIN.
TRACEY EMIN, yes.
Yeah.
She's very brave woman to show whatever she has. Like, I would not show any, like, my personal belongs, but she does.
That's true. And it's quite pioneer. This work is created in 1998, and then it was showed in Tate Gallery in 1999. It was also shortlisted work for the Turner Prize. And so I would describe how does this work look like. So this artist said she has been through some very depressive moment of her life because of some relationship changes. So she struggled a lot. There were 4 days that she was in the bed, not eating, not drinking, and she was a mess. So everything was happening in this bed, and she just drank alcohols the whole 4 days.
She was not eating, but she drank.
Yeah, only alcohol. So she was in an extremely depressive mood, and then there were like suicidal thoughts, there were harsh time, and then she was struggled in the bed and not able to carry on the daily activity. And then after 4 days, and she finally able to like get out of the bed, and then she look at this mess that she just created, and she finds it so disgusting, but it's also very real. Like it show revealing like vulnerability in her life. And at this bed you really saw like human secretions, and then you see used condoms, like bloody tampons, and alcohol bottles, cigarette butts, and all those like things that we would never show it in front of other people.
Yeah. I feel like it's similar to that Regret Giovanni, right? Trivaniza. I never can say right. But it's like showing the stuff they use, just usual stuff, not about their like labor effort artwork.
Recreativa.net.
Yeah.
But her work is extremely like confessional, so it's all about her personal experience. So when you saw those like pregnancy tests and bloody things, you really really think about what just happened to this woman.
Yeah. Do you think you can show your stuff?
Messy bad
in your...
I don't think so. I don't think I have that courage to do so, but I think this podcast really helped me, because I wanted to be like authentic. I want to be more brave in facing myself, my vulnerability. So I think I'm start to opening up, but I don't think it's necessary that people see my bad. I don't know if this is part of my practice or this is a way that I would do art, but it's definitely very courageous, like what she did, and of course like the audience were shocked at that time.
Yeah, definitely shocking thing. I definitely it's really hard to show your personal stuff. Sometimes I even feels a little hesitate to invite my my kids friends or parents because they're gonna open our bedroom and show our stuff. Like we had some little bit of arguing the other day also with my kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't that crazy bad, but still I don't really want to show my personal
Belongings.
belongings, and you know, it's not perfect. It's not perfect like Pinterest bedroom. Right? So that's the problem. It's like when you have depression, you have your own thought of like perfection, imagination. So you have your world of like perfect world. But if you realize your real life is not that fitting, not like looking like that perfect world, then you get disappointed yourself and then get depressed and wanted to hide. That feeling is totally normal. I think everyone has that kind of little, perfectionism.
You mean that sense of shame that you feel like you couldn't live up to the expectations?
More than shame, I think perfectionism. I guess most people want to show my best. You don't want to show your weakness. Do you understand?
Yes, I can relate to that.
But I think, as you said, I feel much more openness now since I do the podcast, because my weakness, I always feel struggle with my language, but now it started to come out, even though I make a mistake. But I think, as you always encourage me, just like do it.
Oh, really?
You didn't do it? You didn't encourage me?
Yeah, I did. I did in some way.
I feel really influenced. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a saying, like I listened to another podcast the other day, and they were talking about like what is called buffalo. How to spell that?
What's that?
Like the animal.
Animal what?
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yes. This podcast was talking about buffalo, this animal, and they say this buffalo was actually a very courageous animal, very interesting.
Right.
When they see the storm, they went directly into the storm because they know that the storm will eventually be over. But if you, run away from the storm will always chase you in some way, and you will never get rest. So it's actually a story about facing your fear. So it's not. It's not becoming your fear, it's becoming part of your life that you can make a peace with.
Yeah. Is it all the buffalo groups? They just facing toward to the storm, or just a few of the leaders do it?
I think they were talking about they're running towards the storm. So you're being in the center of the storm, you know it's dangerous, but then this dangerous, as long as you see it, it's stopped becoming a fear. It's becoming a part of the fact. It becomes some sort of the things that you're going through right now.
Yeah, that's really brave attitude. But I think they know they are heavy, so they're not gonna be flow away.
Yeah. You mean they themselves they are
they know themselves.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. Yeah.
Yes, but anyway, I know what you mean.
And so on this bed, like TRACEY EMIN's bed, everything's so messy. Like you can also see like the traces of human being, like movement. It's very interesting. And then she also said this is part of her life. Like she doesn't smoke anymore. she doesn't have sex anymore. She doesn't use. She doesn't have period anymore, and she doesn't have this kind of small pale blue underwear, and then she don't make the stands on the bed like that, like she used to do. If she ever did, she would like wash it immediately. So this work is actually marked a part of her life. Like at that moment, it was not her reality anymore. But every time she would remake those beds in the gallery, in the art space, it would remind her of that difficult time. Like she's being extremely depressive, and she said, "Oh, if people would find me like that, like I could be dead. I could just be passed out on this bed in these 4 days." But then somehow she survived from it. Yeah.
So why did you choose that artist about we being in the Greenwood Cemetery?
Because I got to know this artwork like a few years ago when I was like 20s. At the time, I didn't have so much experiences. I think I was living in my hometown country, and life kind of was very smooth, right? You didn't face so much challenges as an adult. And when the first time I saw it, it's just a aesthetic. It doesn't say so much about one person's traumatic experiences. But few years later, when I look back on this work, I can imagine what happened with this lady, with this woman. Like she was describing like her traumatic childhood experiences, and also that her experience of being raped by somebody in like UK. And I think I can sense like her pain right now when I look at this messy bed.
Do you think this like facing through to the traumatized moments is helpful for recovering their mental statement? Do you think it's helpful?
I don't really know, because I guess you have to have the right help. I think you have to be assist in some way.
Right.
It could be therapists, it could be family and friends.
Yeah.
I feel like we are social animals. Anybody facing any severe challenges alone, you feel struggled. It could really harm you in some way, and then
right.
we have to seek help. So that's how society works. It's like we help each other.
Right. So I think that's a really important point. Like, when you're facing through hard moments, a traumatized moment yourself, it can go wrong. Actually, it can go more deeper sadness and pain. If you practice yourself, stabilize and meditate, and then you're strong enough, then maybe it's possible. But most people thinking about the traumatized moments when they're alone and kind of when their mind is weak. So that's really has to aware that, but you can't ignore. You cannot ignore about your pain, your dark moments, because it's gonna be inside of you to come out to make you struggle again. So have to recognize and facing toward it, like the buffalo, like running toward the storm. You will realize, I can win. I'm not gonna be, fall down from my past. You can be stood up, actually, if you know yourself, and then just that past is past. Just you cannot change. This is just happened, but it's part of my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in certain time during those dark period, somebody has offered their help to you so you can get over the difficult time?
Yeah, I had help. I had help. Actually, I had a really difficult time in my 20s. So that's it's not just one thing. It's a whole my family issue, economic issue, and the society. As a Korean woman, it was difficult to survive, and all that's like a mistake I made. And
what do you mean by mistake? Like
wrong decision.
Wrong decision.
Yeah. So I was depressed, pretty depressed, and I decided to come here. Basically, I want to change my life. It happened actually after I met my husband. But actually, I thought it's the life changing, but inside of me, that's like my dark moment was just sneaking inside, and they wasn't showing, but it was still there. I wasn't really talk about that.
No.
Yeah, and I wasn't really bring out. I mean, my husband knows all my, sadness, but I wasn't really making sure. And after a few years later, out of blue, just blew out actually. So I make my emotion just drop to like underground. So I was very depressed again. And I started to meet the therapist. So I got help. I don't think I can do it myself at the time. So I got help from the family, my husband, and the therapist, and the medication, everything. So to get strong enough, you need help first, and then you need to realize yourself.
Okay, this question you can edit out if you don't like it. So, do you want to share like one of the moment you think it's all right to?
Okay, it's a lot of things that happen, but this thing is I started to talk about to the public when I had sexual violence when I was 20. Like in here, age was 20, and then my father passed away at the time. I had to make money, and I didn't make enough money. It was like $600 per month, but I had to pay the rent, bills, and then take care of my sister. And my mom just left at the time because she had a bipolar, so it was very hard time. And I was basically starving all the time. I mean, the company is very small, small company, just making the clothing for the big brands at the time, and they offer the lunch, but I had to survive for the dinner and then other things. So whenever people invited from the company or my friends, I just went over because I'm hungry. Oh, they're like, come over, have a dinner together. I just go,
Yeah.
So that makes like kind of other person who I know, my friends, somebody's friends, and then I wasn't really close to people. So the guy was inviting me one time, and then I went over. We went to the restaurant, and it was very late night. He dropped me off. She said he's gonna drop me off at my house, and then actually went to different place, and then it started to fighting starting at the time, and eventually, okay, forget about it. And then he drove to near my house, but front of my house has a little playground, but he started to attack me.
Is this one is the friend of the friend? So
yeah,
you
friend
don't
of
know
friend.
this person very well.
Yeah, my friends know him, and but I didn't know him much. Just like we hang out a few times. So yeah, it was very bad, injured, and luckily it wasn't really total rape, but I got really hurt. So yeah, so I had to go to police office and things. So so I was really feel bad, and whenever the Asian woman got, get attacked from random people, because the Asian women are kind of like how to say, it's like many Asian women get targets,
they become a target.
Yeah, becomes target.
You mean for like physical attacks, right?
And then I found the artist who got attacked from just random security guard, her work is incredible. So I kind of like making my own work layer on the top of her work. So I want to kind of like echoing from other Asian women's sadness about that kind of vulnerability,
Vulnerability. Yeah, because you live in another country, you're facing different challenges, right? You're facing financial challenges, economy, basically, but also you're not familiar to the cultural, so you are kind of learning all the time, and and also you have to do your work. So basically you have to be very rational about your life decisions, right? Every day you have to live up to some reasons. You have to make sure that you actually make efforts towards your goal or whatever. But then, especially for artists, like you have to use your emotions to make work. Your work has to channel to the audiences. Then how do we channel to other people? One thing is information, like you share the information, but the other thing is through a very organic human way to communicate with the heart, with your mind. It can be very contradictory. Yeah.
So
but that story that you share, I find it extremely beautiful and emotional. It also makes me feel like heartbroken, of course, when hearing that, because you're describing extremely hardship, and
more difficult part was I didn't have anybody to ask for help at the time, because I told you, like, finally that attack happened in front of my house, and I screamed like, with top of my lung, but my mom probably heard that, but she didn't say anything. She didn't come out, and I guess like some other neighbors came out eventually with a tennis racket. I still remember tennis racket. 3 people were come out, and then they called the police, and then that's what happened. But I kind of feel really angry about my mom. My mom was at home that day. She was gone for a while, and they come back for a few days and then just leave again. That kind of pattern she had. But that day she was at home, but she wasn't come out. And then my father wasn't. He passed away. So I couldn't say anything about my situation for other family because I feel shame myself because I went myself. No, that was my decision. And in Korea also has really weird Confucianism, judgmental kind of mentality. So even though the woman's victim, you get look really bad, if you're talking about this. Yeah. I guess maybe it's a little bit different now, but I guess I'm pretty sure a lot of Koreans feel this way.
You feel like they are also blaming the victims.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go out, then did you wear clothes not showing your sexual attractive? So you kind of like flooded to others that kind of blame you. You will hear.
Like horrible. Yeah, I think this happens in many countries. Also, large those sexual violence were underreported.
Yeah,
because of certain emotion, certain like prejudice in the society would come up against women.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my story. So,
but I feel like also when we are in our 20s, it can be very unconscious.
I'm thinking about back then,
Yeah.
The body is everything is adults, grown-ups, but the mental is still growing. Yeah, the early 20s.
I think so too. And then I think when people were in those traumatic experiences, they can also be kind of have some sort of like memory loss. Like they were not very certain what is really happened. And I think that moment is like most stressful and confusing moment in your mind.
Right. Do you have any like story to share or your surround your family has similar kind of experience about mental health, or you want to figure out yourself?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't say I'm very like a mentally stable person. One of my family recently diagnosed bipolar. I wasn't very educated about this disease until very recently. I checked it online. It's talking about extremely mood changes. So, and then so my whole family like suspecting if this is actually genetic, like because of my father's side, all have like very extreme emotions. And then when I look back on my life, and I experienced that too. But there's some way that I try to use my logical brain to make sure that I won't show it in the public. Like, for example, when I was in China, like last summer, there were one night I was in a hotel with my partner at the time, and we were having some argument, and I felt like very extreme like emotions, not because of any argument happening right now, but it's actually accumulation of certain stress. Like I was flying a lot. I was in New York, Berlin, then in China. And there were a lot of stressful moments, which I don't get to tell anybody. So at the night, I felt like I really couldn't find anybody to talk about those things, because out of blue, who are you going to call? Are you going to call your family? Are you going to call your friends? And I was at another country, and I haven't been back to China for like 4 years. So I was extremely frustrated, but I need to talk. So I called this, do you know this helpline, 988? It's actually from the United States, so it's like a suicidal hotline. I wasn't having actually a suicidal thought, but I felt like extremely unsatisfied about the environment situation I'm in. So I called them to talk like for an hour. I was just sitting outside of the hotel lobby and it was probably like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Summer, so I stayed outside.
I'm curious how they talk to you, the helpline.
Actually, I felt like that woman really felt like worn out by the work. So she sounds even more stressed than me. But she asked me like those simple questions like, why do you feel so uncomfortable at this moment? Right? I just start to talk about, you know, I came to New York and to study, but I don't feel like I'm getting so many things from it. And I feel very, like, for so many moments in like relationship or relationship towards others, I feel like the lack of ability to explaining myself. Not based on language wise, but actually based on emotional wise. I don't know how to communicate what do I want. And at that moment, I just felt like the stress I really couldn't take anymore. And so I called them, and they just listened to me talking, and momentarily they would ask me a question like, oh, then how do you feel about your environment? I feel like when I really started to feel, instead of like mentally to think about it, when I really have to go through that stressful moment actually passed. I don't know, it's forever. I just do not ever get depressive again, but at that moment it helps. It helps to calm me down. Because otherwise, what else can I do? A yell on the street or like there's nothing I could literally do.
Very
at that
smart
moment.
move. Yeah, I never thought. I mean, because when you get angry, how can you try to calm down yourself? I never thought about talking to someone else like randomly. I mean, yeah, you have the number, there's service, but I never thought about I can use that kind of service. You know, I would go out just walking, or eat or sleep. You know, I probably figure out what I have, but you use source from outside. It's very smart. Yeah.
I wish I have a therapist at the time so I can talk more professionally. But that night, there's a woman was chatting with me. I don't know her name. I don't know anything about her. She doesn't know anything about me. So it's really like talk with a stranger that she is on the other side of the planet. Yeah, it feels.
But you helped you.
Yeah,
anyway,
it helped me
like,
get out of that night.
Of course, yeah, they are not gonna be your therapist. Their role is like hold your hands not to get dropped.
Yeah,
basically.
I feel like that's very important at certain moment, because you think about those hardships that you have to sort of like go through at that moment. You pass that moment, you can like deal with other of those like random things, but you have to go through that very specific moment.
It's a very hard job. Yeah, I can't really. I was thinking of a therapist job, but I can't really take all the emotions from other strangers. It's because it becomes my weight. Because I feel other people's feeling very easily, empathy, and then I share my emotions, so so I guess it's very hard job for me.
Yeah, but they are professionally trained, so they are very like they are able to help you to process those emotions. Not necessarily they are taking on those emotions, I guess. Yeah.
So, how are you feeling recently?
A little bit manic, but I try to keep everything like in control. And I feel like this rational brain is fighting against this emotional side of the brain. I feel like I don't know, I'm on, like I'm floating in the ocean, and then there's like things want to drag you down, but they're also like you kind of like flow with the waves, and like it's complicated.
It is. Life is not easy.
Life is not easy. But I think TRACEY Emin is very inspirational. You can actually turn this into a artwork.
Yes, she's genius to share her, you know, the arts recognition of the artwork. It can be anything, even your bed, your tampon, or your condoms, whatever, because nobody did it before. It has to be like, oh, this can be art. It's like have to be originality. Show first. There are probably this kind of artists similar to the Trivanit and the other things, but the bed itself is kind of new, and like you never saw it before.
Yeah, it's extremely autobiographical. It's described part of her experiences that nobody has any access to it, and then it's very honest. It's very, in some way, very authentic.
Authentic. That's what I want to say. Yeah, she has authenticity. It's that makes,
because we don't always connect to the strong side of other people's personality. We connect through those weakness actually. So it's courageous to show, to share, but you know it's also very helpful for other people, I guess.
Sure.
To know, oh, I also have been through this.
I always wanted to ask about your work, about
my vulnerability.
Chopping bodies.
Chopping bodies. Oh, that's actually a very good thing. I'm still like trying to figure out why I drawing so many chopped bodies, like, you know, floating bodies. And this actually was part of my dream. Since I was a kid, I have this nightmares of like bodies being like segmented bodies, you know. I once had a dream that extremely violent, like my mother was being chopped by my father, and it was so bloody, and then you can really see the part of the body was there, and then I just immediately got up, and I just was a rush of this pain, and I felt so anxious. I had to call my mom immediately to just ask her if she's all right, because I have this like fear that she would somehow get hurt by somebody. Maybe it's not my family member, but it's a fear. And then this kind of nightmare of different people, body being segmented, is like a reoccurring nightmare throughout my life. Every time I got so anxious, I would have this kind of nightmare. I still couldn't like 100% figure out what happened. So it came up in my drawings, and other people also find it very interesting.
That's very interesting. And then you never can forget. It's like continuously you have stuck that imagination is inside your brain.
Yeah, because I don't need to use any references for my drawing. It just came on my hand. My hand is just like a medium. I don't need to use my logical brain to think about the compositions. It's just naturally drew it on the paper.
I wonder, you had some kind of traumatic experience when you are very, very young.
Yeah, that's true, because I grew up with my grandparents. My parents were not always there. They were very busy working, you know. And my grandparents are very strict. They always threaten me, like, Yaching, if you don't do this, or if you don't behave very well, we will die because of you. So there were so many nights I was sleeping alongside my grandparents. I would like cry in my bed, but more like sobbing, so they won't notice about it. But so I constantly afraid. I'm afraid. I have this fear that they will die one day because of me, because of my fault. They will die. As a kid, you really don't
As
understand,
kids,
right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, I saw them; they're still alive. So I know this is like something they use a strategy, right? To make you become like obey what they said. But at that time, my mind couldn't figure it out. A 3 years old, a 5 years old, even a 10 years old would not understand what does it mean. But I'm also the only kid. That means I don't have a sibling to talk about those issues, and I'm too young to express this even to my parents. They don't know anything that has happened.
So anyone has kids, they are listening. They get really take it serious.
Please don't. Please be careful.
Please be careful what you're saying to your children.
Yeah. So nightmare became part of my like creative fuel along my way. Of course, I'm suffering from this, but something also beautiful came out from this nightmare. It's my savior also.
Yeah.
And my whole career depends on that nightmare I had.
Yeah,
so
definitely I agree with that. Like my strong story came out from my trauma. So yeah, thank you for sharing. It's very.
I'm happy to share. I'm happy to share more. I mean, as long
we
as you
can
listen.
keep talking about this.
Exactly, but you have to subscribe.
Subscribe.
And like the video too.
What?
Like the video.
So don't forget the subscribe button and then like.
Oh, so we are updating our podcast every
Sunday, 10 a.m.
Very good. On the platform, YouTube video, YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Podcast. Did I forget anything?
I don't know.
Yeah, and the Instagram is current.art podcast.
Current.art podcast. Follow us, please.
So that's everything about today.
Okay.
So we will continue about this topic next week because I think a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to cover. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to share. I'm so happy that you shared this very important pivotal moment of your life, and I truly feel like emotional about that.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. See you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.